Alright, so today we're going to go over how to set up your navigation inside of your stories that you'll be creating, your little storybooks. There's a couple of different ways to do this. I don't know if we're going to get to both today, but I'll show you. So go ahead and create a new ActionScript 3 file. And we're going to, just to get everything set up how we need it, go up to Window, other panels, and select the scene option, which is also Shift F2 on your keyboard.
Now, this navigation will be on every page, right?
Yes. Yeah. So inside of your scenes here, go ahead and create 3 scenes. Scene 1, 2, and 3. Actually, on second thought, I've never noticed the duplicate scene button before. So let's just create one and then we'll duplicate that one. Make it a little easier on us. So delete your 2 scenes that you just created. It's a little practice in creating and deleting scenes there. Let's just stick with scene 1 for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and just create 3 buttons. I guess 1 button and then duplicate it a couple of times. At the bottom of your stage, these are going to represent our different pages. Let's use a rectangle. We're setting this up for our storybooks that we'll be doing. You can also use this for creating a Flash website at some point, but yeah. Alright, so say I want my button to look like that, nice rectangle. You'll select whatever shape you created for your button and hit F8 on your keyboard to convert it to a symbol. The symbol I want to convert this to is a button. And I will give it a name of button. Say OK. Alright, so typically what we would do is after we have our button created, I'm not going to go in and put in the over state or anything like that right now. We'll just leave it like this. But typically you come up to your properties and insert an instance name for your button. So let's go ahead and do that. We can say BT, or let's not do that. Let's just do P1 for page 1, since we'll be creating a book out of this. Then what we can do is duplicate our button a couple of more times. If I know that I want mine to just be across the bottom here, I'll typically hold down Alt and Shift and then just click and drag. That's Alt, Shift, click, drag. That'll duplicate my buttons for me and keep it in a nice straight line. So then let's go back through and change P1 to be P2 and P3 for page 1, 2, and 3.
Wouldn't we want a back button too? To the back?
Well, the way we're setting this one up, we're setting them up as pages, so you can just click on page 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do the next example. We'll have a next and a back button, and then you can combine those two if you want to. Yeah. Alright, so with the page 1, 2, and 3 set up here, typically you would think that you would go through and start adding your ActionScript and everything, but just coming from experience, I'll save y'all a little bit of time here. One helpful thing to do when you're setting up a navigation like this, it's going to span across multiple scenes, is put all of this inside of one movie clip so that you just have to go into one movie clip if you want to edit anything instead of going to each scene to edit the action script or anything like that. Because the action script is dependent on the scene that you're currently in. So if you stick it all inside of a movie clip, then the action script stays with that movie clip as it goes throughout the scenes. Does that make sense? Kind of. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got my page 1, 2, and 3 buttons set up. Go ahead and select all of those. Hit F8 on your keyboard. And I'm going to name this navigation and change the type from button to movie clip. You don't want to contain a button inside of your button. Things get weird that way. So we've got our 3 buttons set up inside of our navigation movie clip. Go ahead and say OK. And now we can go up to our scenes again, which was that Shift F2? Yeah. And click on scene 1 and hit that duplicate button. I thought that was kind of nifty. And you can even go through and rename these. Page 1. Do y'all have that set up? We good? Alright, so we've got our scenes labeled as page 1, page 2, and page 3 with spaces. If you labeled yours differently, just keep track of what you labeled them because we're going to write some action scripts in a minute that'll mess it up. So the cool thing about using that duplicate feature is it does pull over that menu in all 3 of them. Keeps it in the same spot. And with using our movie clip, if we were to come inside of that movie clip and decided we wanted to draw some nifty border around our navigation, please don't draw a border like that. Whenever you go through to your different scenes, it pulls all of that with it as well. So we're going to use what we set up with our movie clips to actually go inside and write ActionScript. Because if we were to come through and write ActionScript on the main page 1, then we would have to go through and duplicate that ActionScript for every scene. But by writing it inside of the movie clip, just like we can, add a background and it shows on all of them, if we write ActionScript, it'll show on all of them. So let me rename my layer 1 here to buttons. And create a new layer and call it ActionScript or AS. Yeah, well, we're inside of the navigation movie clip. Sorry, I may have missed that. So up here at the top where it shows your breadcrumb, you should see page 1, navigation. And then you should have a buttons layer and an ActionScript layer. So I'm going to click on my ActionScript layer and hit F9 on my keyboard to pull up my Actions panel. And if you'll recall, we have our 3 buttons set up, which are locked, as with the instance name up here in the properties of P1, P2, and P3. So when we write our action script, we need to reference each individual button. So I can say P1 dot add event listener. Yeah. Mouse event dot click. And then I can say like go P1 for go page 1. And make that a little larger.
Would you write the exact code for each one?
Yeah, you will. And this is all code that we've done before. You shouldn't, none of this should seem new to you. It might be unfamiliar still because kind of new to it, but we've all written this before. So then underneath that, we'll need to write a function to handle this go P1 function. So we'll say function go P1. It's going to be a mouse event. It's a lot like JavaScript, yeah. And we'll say go to, and we're going to use go to and stop on these. Put in the frame number and then the scene name, which is, what do we name it? Page 1. So once you have that first one set up, you can copy and paste that a couple times. And then just go through and change out where it's page 1 and add page 2 and 3.
See, I did, remember when I was telling you I was trying to make the scenes page for the movie?
Mm-hmm.
I did the exact same thing. I copied and pasted every single thing that we wrote before.
Yeah.
And I changed each scene.
Okay.
It didn't work.
You got an error?
Yeah, I had a lot of errors. It said,
You must have missed something. No, seriously. Anytime you have errors like that, just shoot me an email with your file, and I'll take a look over it.
I still have it. I mean,
But-
I'll bring it next class. and
Yeah,
show you.
no,
I'm
that would be
just
good.
curious why it didn't work.
But yeah, well, whenever you copy and paste them over, you've got to be really careful to go in and get every little detail, or else it will throw you many errors.
Okay, so like, you would still keep page 1, like the 1 number, but just change the page number. You wouldn't put 3 there?
Correct, because this is the frame number
Okay.
on that scene. So we're always going to frame 1 currently. And then really, when you have your actual scenes set up, you're going to be using go to and play because you'll have animations inside of it and whatnot.
Yeah.
We're just
No,
doing,
I kept everything the same, play, movie, everything the same.
Yeah.
Except for the scenes. I changed each scene. I still didn't play.
yeah. I'll take a look at it. Just bring your file in. For those listening online, if you have any errors, shoot me an email. Saving mine real quick so I don't lose it. All right, so once you have all 3 of those set up, you can test your movie to see if it'll work, but you're not going to be able to tell if it works or not because we don't have anything on those scenes. So just go through each scene and draw a little bit on each scene so that you can test it and see it going to actual different scenes. I'm going to pause for a second and get that taken care of. Alright, so we've got graphics set up on each of the scenes. I just put P1, P2, and P3. And right now, if we were to go and test it, it would start looping through everything because there's no ActionScript stopping it on the first page. So let's go to page 1, and I'm going to add a new layer. for my action script, and of course we'll name it. But go ahead on the page 1 scene with the ActionScript layer. Hit F9 on your keyboard, and we're going to type in our stop ActionScript to make it stop on frame 1. This is on the actual scene. So if you go to page 1, go to the ActionScript or create an ActionScript layer, and hit F9 on your keyboard, and type in the stop ActionScript so that when you test it, it'll go through and it'll at least stop at page 1. Now, if you test it at this point, you will notice that there's an error. We're going to correct that in a second.
Mine's not stopping.
Yeah.
Mine's still.
All right, so right now, as everything is set up, if you go and test your movie, it should stop on frame 1. If you click on a button, though, it'll give you an error. The error is saying that scene page 2 was not found. This is a little lesson in kind of paths and how everything works with that. If you go through, and I'm going to pull up my action script here, go over to my navigation action script. The way this is set up, since we created a movie clip to contain all of the buttons, it's looking for a scene 2 or a page 2 and a page 3 inside of that movie clip. So to kind of explain it, there we go. So we have page 1 right here. Then we have this movie clip that's containing our 3 buttons. What it's doing is looking for page 2 and page 3 inside of this instead of back outside, right? So the first thing we need to do, you've got this breadcrumb set up right here. We need to get outside of the movie clip back to our page 1 scene, and then we need to look for page 2 or page 3.
So write the same script we wrote inside the navigation outside?
Well, we're going to use the script that's inside of the navigation, but with our code, we're going to go outside of the movie clip.
So put it on page 1 actually.
No.
Okay.
We're going to, all right, so we're inside of the navigation right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we wrote all of our code. Saying go to and stop page 1 is looking for it inside of our current movie clip.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to do is I'm going to click this little target right here. If you're familiar with Dreamweaver coding, they have the target, and it'll target it to a file path. Well, this will target it to a specific area on your scene. Right now it's set up to relative. Change that to absolute. And it should say object and in parentheses root. I'm going to say OK. And be sure to add a period in between the object root and the go to and stop.
Do that for each page?
Do that for each of them. You can just copy and paste that.
It's up on the top. It's a little like
Or you can just type it in like this. I was just showing you how to find it normally.
So it's not like dot slash?
No, this is what dot slash is inside of ActionScript.
Okay.
It's how they do it.
Like
You
target,
just need to use it once, not
like a
like
circle
twice.
with a
Just
cross
once.
in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yep.
See, if you look up there, it's the third symbol over.
It's right here.
Then on the bottom, click absolute.
Yeah, and you'll change that to absolute, and then it'll give you it. Now, so what this is basically doing then is it's taking us back to the very parent, the very first scene that we have set up on our Flash file, and then it's running the action script to go to and stop on page 1.
Are these buttons different? Named different?
So if you test it, it should do this right here, and I'm going to come around and answer questions. All right, so we have these 3 pages set up with the 3 buttons. That's how you hop back and forth between the scenes. Again, the great thing with keeping all this within a movie clip is if you wanted to go in and change the look of anything, move your buttons around, anything like that. Of course, changing the button does it for everything, but say I wanted to change it to a different navigational layout. It'll do that for all of my scenes since it's all inside of a movie clip. Just be sure to do any of your edits inside of that movie clip, not outside of it. Alright. So the final thing we'll do here is kind of along the lines of setting up the pages. If you wanted a next and a previous button set up, make sure that you're inside of the navigation movie clip again so that it does it on all of the scenes. And we're going to create some new buttons here. Create one for next, a little arrow or something.
That's great. Never seen an arrow like that. I'm just gonna put a triangle.
There we go. So here's my arrow. Yeah.
Do we make those instant names too?
The what?
Do we make those symbols and have an instant name for that? Or just,
Well, we are going to make them into symbols, yes. So again, I'm inside of the navigation movie clip. I've got some sort of an arrow representing next. I'm going to use the same thing for back. I'm just going to make one button out of it though. So I'll hit F8 on my keyboard once I have my arrow selected. Change the type to a button. And I'm going to name it arrow. And just like our buttons we've set up down here, I need to give this one an instance name. I'll give it an instance name of BT_next.
you said control shift.
So I have this button set up with the instance name of BT_next. If I pull up my ActionScript, hit F9, and once again using our copy and pasting skills, we can just copy and paste one of these previously set up functions with the event listener. This time I will change P3, which is the instance name of the page 3 button, to BT_next so we can reference that arrow. I'm going to give this one a function name of next scene. Oh, never mind. It highlighted blue, so that means that that is syntax. We cannot use that. So we'll say go next. Oh, yeah, go next. We'll keep it at that. And remember, when you're referencing a function that you're about to set up here, since we copied and pasted this, we need to make sure that that instance name of the button that we're referencing is changed. The function name is changed, and then we need to make sure that the actual function we have set up, we go through and change that to match this function. Alright, so this is going to be a mouse event. Everything's going to remain the same. We'll still need to do the object root to get to the root there. But then instead of saying go to and stop a specific frame and scene, we're going to do go to and stop, I believe it's called next scene. That way, regardless of what scene you're currently on, it's just going to go and find the next one in the line of scenes.
Well, if you're on 3, does it go back to 1?
It'll go back to 1. Yeah.
So would there be like back scenes?
Yes. All right. So if you test that, hitting Control Enter,
Let me make that.
you'll notice it's going to flip through all of them real quick. That's because with the next scene, it's not going to and stopping at the next scene. So you'll have to have a little bit of stop action on each of your pages. So if I come through on each page and just write stop. And I can do all that from my actions panel. You don't have to flip back and forth between everything. You can just click on your different scenes. Now if I stop it and hit next, there we go. And you can take that arrow. I'm going to copy it and paste it. Flip it over to the other side. You will need to change the instance name of it. We have this one set up as BT_next. You probably want this to be BT_previous. I like previous. You name it whatever you want. You can name it Bob. So you have BT_previous. Then if I come up here with my ActionScript, I can copy and paste this block again because I love copying and pasting. BT_previous. Instead of go next, go previous. Go previous. And I'm honestly not 100% sure what this is, but I'm guessing it's going to be something like that. Oh, well, it's not giving me anything. Just, see, that does next scene. So let's see here. Previous scene. It is previous scene. Except I'll need that object out root. Or object root in parentheses. I kind of figured that's what it was. I just wanted to make sure. Alright, so once you have all that set up, you can test it. And then you should be able to go next and previous, as well as use your buttons down at the bottom, the jump scenes. And you can get even more advanced with it and check and see what the current scene you're on. And like, if you're on scene 3, you can make this button disappear. If you're on scene 1, you can make this one disappear. I'm not going to get into that in this tutorial, but we can do that in the future. And that is how you set up the navigation for the story. If you have any questions, email me.